And we are live, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to Lead Your Movement. I'm Angelique Rewers, CEO and founder of The Corporate Agent, where we're the leading experts in helping experts win high-paying corporate clients. And this is our weekly show where we sit down and talk with amazing business leaders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who are using their businesses and their organizations to drive real, meaningful, positive change in the world. And today we are talking about really, I think, one of the most important themes that have come out of the movements that we're seeing, the awareness that we're seeing around racial injustice in this country and in others, around systemic racism and how it is really baked into our culture. And so today we're going to be talking to two of the leading experts on multicultural marketing and what it looks like for these big companies that are really addressing this in a new way, why it's important, what the discussions are around this, and what these brands really need to do if they're going to have a very authentic and meaningful way of engaging multicultural audiences. So our guests today are two folks who I've had the privilege of knowing for many years, of working with for many years. And they are two of the warmest, most caring people I know. And when it comes to content marketing and multicultural marketing for large companies, these guys are it. They are it. Sydney Craig Hart and Will Hart are co-founders of Smart Simple Marketing, the go-to firm that the biggest brands in Silicon Valley and the tech world and beyond call on when they want to increase market share and deepen loyalty and engagement with small businesses, minority-owned businesses, and women-owned businesses. Will and Sydney have spent 15 plus years working with almost 10,000 small business owners in over 79 different industries. And what they've done is they've taken all of that knowledge of having worked with so many of these small and diverse business owners, brought that knowledge together to create proprietary strategies and systems that these big brands like Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and a lot of those big global tech brands that you guys know, some of those brands might be in front of you right now. We can't mention them by name, but these are the two who are going inside these companies and teaching their teams and helping them build out strategies in order to be able to connect with these women-owned, minority-owned, and other small businesses so that they can grow the lifetime value of their customers, decrease attrition, especially in a lot of these tech companies. Attrition is a huge issue. Really get in there and help them to connect with these coveted market segments and increase the value of their work with them in ways that really go beyond what these big brands can do on their own. So one of the things I love about them, we're going to talk about this, is also how multicultural marketing and engagement with these coveted industry segments can go way beyond just checking a box to create lasting change. So I want to welcome to the show right now, Sydney Craig Hart and Will Hart, two of my very dear friends and favorite clients of all time. Welcome, you guys. So glad to have you here.
Thanks, Angelique.
Yeah, it's great to be here. How fun is this?
Hey, with that intro, I don't think we need to say anything else.
That we're good. We're done, right? We're done. It's so good to actually see you guys. I mean, we don't get to, there were a couple of times you would have been here in South Florida that because of the current pandemic, we're not able to do that, but it's great to see you. And actually, it's really sort of interesting that we're having this conversation right now because so much of what you've been preaching to brands, over these last few years, really, they have to rely on that big time right now. But before we get into that, we ask every guest at the top of the show, what is the movement that you are leading?
I would say the movement that we're leading, there's a couple of points to it. We are definitely leading the movement to insist that corporate brands actually take a customer-centric approach to their marketing. It's something that gets paid a lot of lip service, and a lot of people love to say, we put the customer first and we're customer-centric, and clearly we see that is not the case. And so we are really insisting that our clients and that the industries that we serve change that. We are also really highlighting the necessity of effective multicultural marketing. And as you said during the intro, this is not about checking a box. Equality matters for everyone. Diversity matters for everyone. Inclusion matters for everyone. And this is not something that we consider to be tied to the current movements, we've always been saying this. We've been saying this for over a decade, that everyone deserves an opportunity to meet their potential and to have access to the resources and support and guidance they need to be successful. And so we are really insisting that brands put their money where their mouth is, and not allowing them any longer to make excuses and to just kind of say, yeah, that's something we do. But we want to focus on our KPIs and our features and all of our products. We're insisting that they actually invest in underserved communities, because this is where the greatest innovation and opportunity lies. And, everyone wins when these big brands do what they're supposed to do with regards to their marketing and reaching out. So we're really excited about that, because we've been talking about it for so long. And I feel like personally, people have been like, yeah, that's nice. Like, yeah, we heard you, but we're doing what we want to do. And now I feel like people are saying, oh, wait, is that what she was talking about? Is that what they've been saying? So yes, this is what we've been saying. So we're really excited to be at the forefront of that and shining a light on what's possible, and really just bringing awareness to all of these amazing businesses that have so much to offer.
And in leading this movement of being customer centric, Angelique, we're going into these organizations and really giving them a hug and holding them by the hand and saying, look, here are a few things that you can do to really get in touch with your audience, deepen engagement and loyalty with your customers in the right way. And if you do that in the right way, like Sydney mentioned, everybody wins. Your customer gets great value, they get great products, get great service, and you grow as an organization and become a valuable resource to your target audience.
Yeah, it's such an important point, Will. I mean, I think it's really these companies, I think, sometimes don't realize the benefit to them always, that what it's really going to do in order to transform their own organization, and sort of the ripple effect, the sort of systemic benefits of when they take a different approach to doing this. So we have a lot to talk about, especially now. Had we had this conversation maybe in 2019, it would be a slightly different conversation than it is now. So I know a lot of people are joining us live. So I want to welcome you guys who are here live with us. And throughout the show, we're going to go ahead and touch base with you guys and see what questions you have for Will and Sydney. I think as we get into this, you're going to have a lot of questions, but let us know how it's resonating with you. And we love your comments, and we'll be sure to check in with you guys throughout the episode today. So one of the things I want to start with right off the bat, you guys, is I think, and I alluded to this for those folks who are on our email list. I said today, I want to get into one of your secrets, and I want to do it right off the bat, because it's the thing that holds so many small business owners and experts back from working with companies. But I also think it's informative to the entire conversation that we're going to have today. And that is that, big brands, we mentioned 3 of them that we're allowed to talk about: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, for example. You go into big brands like this, and one of the things you guys do is work with them to help them better understand the small business owners, the women-owned business owners, the diverse business owners. I think a lot of people would just assume they have all the research they need. They have everything they need at their fingertips to understand this, but they don't talk about that. Talk about sort of the disconnect between the people inside these companies who create their marketing strategies, create their content, create their channels of connecting with small business owners, and the disconnects and the breakdowns that happen there.
Yeah, so one of the challenges we find with the brands that we work with is that many times the people who are charged with leading these marketing campaigns inside of these organizations have never had a small business. In many cases, they are not a person of color. In many cases, it's all men. And so right away, there's just a disconnect between your level of insight and understanding in your perspective and the audience that you are looking to serve. And I understand that because I have a corporate background. I loved my corporate job. I was not one of those people who ran screaming out of corporate because I hated it. And so I understand what that looks like. And when you have only ever made a living collecting your paycheck, doing your job, and going home every day, you do not understand the weight of what small business owners deal with every single day, and the balance that we have to achieve and how we make buying decisions, let alone if you, excuse me, are not a person of color or you're not a woman, you just don't have that level of insight. And so you automatically, your biases come into play with regards to how you're creating and executing your strategy. And we all have biases. I have them, Will has them, you have them, we all have them. And so that's why it's so important that we step outside of our own biases and we have some humility and acknowledge and say, you know what? I'm targeting this audience that I have never walked in their shoes. I don't really understand their experience. I don't know their thought process or buying process. And so I need some outside assistance. And that's one of the reasons that companies bring us in, is because we're able to bring in that deep level of authenticity and also just skills that they don't have. And I have an example to share if you want to hear it, but that's
I do. I was going to say, I think, one of the funny things that happened when almost all the states start going on lockdown, everybody was working from home, corporate America discovered Zoom. and like, oh my gosh, this Zoom is great. And it's, you would think that they would know about Zoom, and it really never came up for them. They all had their Citrixes and their, go-to meetings and their internal conference line bridges. And they didn't even know about Zoom. But no, I do want to hear an example, because I think this is really going to help folks understand that inside these companies, they are a little bit trapped in a fishbowl, and, it's, an echo chamber, and they really get, it's very, it's very, I want to say, isolated in many ways, and people don't realize that.
Yeah. Before Sydney jumps into that example, I just want to say that one of our secrets is this, Angelique. We realize that when we work with big brands, they're just 100 little small businesses inside of a large company. And so, like Sydney mentioned, we have the skills that they need. And so we have that mindset. And, those in your audience who really look at a big brand and they're kind of afraid of that, it's not a big, scary monster. It's really people that are afraid, trying to do their jobs and keep their jobs. And we have the expertise to help them with that. So there are small businesses struggling inside of large corporations, and we recognize that.
That's so true.
It's so true. Yeah, the example I was going to share was actually our very first corporate client, because we stumbled upon this selling for us. I know, Angelique, you had been telling me to do this, but I was like, so we kind of stumbled into selling to corporate by accident. And the very first contract that we closed, 3 weeks from the date that I met the decision maker, I met her at an event, and she was asking me what we do, and I was explaining to her. And one of our areas of expertise is producing virtual conferences and events. We've actually been doing that for over 12 years, long before everyone and their mother now has popped up saying they're a virtual conference expert. We've actually been doing it since 2008. And so I was sharing with her our expertise in actually creating interactive, engaging, hands-on workshops, conferences, events, etc. And she stopped. She was like, wait, tell me that again. And so I explained it to her, and she was like, I've been wanting to do that. I have no idea how to do that. You can help me do that? I said, yeah. And I walked away from that conversation with a meeting scheduled for 3 days later. And within 3 weeks, we had the contract signed, and we were working on this virtual conference that we produced for this gigantic global brand that all of us know. So I want to just echo what Will said. There's no reason to be intimidated by these companies. First of all, it's just people in the company. They're people just like you and I. They're people who have hopes and dreams, and they make mistakes, and they've got crazy family members, and they're just people, and they have their skills and we have our skills, and you have, as an external expert, a lot to offer. And so don't underestimate or minimize your skills. It would have never occurred to me that someone in her role would not understand how to produce a virtual conference or a series for her audience. She literally had no idea. Like, we had to walk her step by step by step.
And you're a tech company.
Yeah, and you're a tech company. It's like she had no idea. So we created the event, created all the marketing, etc. So it just goes to show, don't make assumptions, and you just can't be intimidated. You really own your expertise and own your knowledge, and look for opportunities to share that and help other people.
I think that's so true. We're going to come back to that too, because I think there are some things that you can ask to clients that we can talk about in terms of how you can even introduce some ideas to them, because they don't even ask you for things they don't know to ask you about. She didn't walk up to you and say, do you know how to do, a virtual event? You happen to be talking about it. And because you were talking about it, she kind of grabbed on to that idea of like, wait, what did you just say? And those are really the moments that we can create when it comes to multicultural marketing and these brands connecting with these really coveted audiences, because women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses are growing at an insane rate right now. Now, obviously, we're going to see a little bit of contraction because the economy is going to kind of tighten up for a little bit before we get back to so we're going to retract and then grow. That's how it works. But they're growing really rapidly, and these markets are really attractive to these bigger brands. Why are they so important? Why is it important that these brands are selling to small business, women-owned, and minority-owned companies?
Yeah, it's important because that's where you contribute to economic growth in the community and in the just in our economy in general. And B, this is how you create jobs. This is how you create legacy. This is how you create sustainable enterprise across the country. So I mentioned, well, I don't know if I did mention, but I'm a fourth generation entrepreneur, and I literally have seen the legacy of entrepreneurship from my great grandfather, who in the 1950s could not get a business loan. Unfortunately, not much has changed. So he crowdfunded his own campaign to build his own building, invested his own money. He literally built the building with his own two hands and then rented it to people based on color so that Black people could have a safe, affordable place to live. He passed that level of care and level of service and that spark of entrepreneurship to my grandmother, who had multiple businesses throughout her life. She finally retired at 75. And then my parents both had businesses. So when you invest in these communities, you are lifting up and creating opportunity, not just for that family or that business, but for generations, because you're creating a trickle of inspiration and opportunity. So it's really, really important that for any brand that has any interest in doing and some kind of corporate social responsibility or creating positive economic impact, you cannot ignore minority-owned and women-owned businesses, because that's where the greatest opportunity lies. It's also, in many cases right now, where the greatest innovation lies. And if you ignore these audiences, you and your customers are going to miss out on all of the amazing innovation that is coming out of these communities. And one of the things I've been talking about a lot recently is that lack of access does not equal lack of intelligence. So a lot of times the individuals in these communities may not have access to education or capital or mentoring, et cetera, but that does not indicate a lack of intelligence or lack of savvy. And investing in those communities really allows that innovation to surface and really gives those businesses what they need to thrive and to grow and to be successful. So it's just such a win-win, and ignoring those audiences, especially in today's climate, is guaranteed to negatively affect your bottom line.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I think that's I think companies used to start with that sort of bottom line view. I hope that they're also seeing the ecosystem benefit as well, right? Because that's what you're really talking about here, an ecosystem benefit of when they're investing in these communities, from the innovation, from the opportunity, and actually even building their future customer bases. Right? Like that idea of, you're creating opportunity, but now IBM actually did a study on that, as you know, Sydney, a few years back. I guess it's been about 8 years now, where they looked at the fact that the more they invested in small business owners, the more those small business owners were coming back as customers to IBM and to other tech firms as well.
I think the other thing I'll add to that, Angelique, too, is just that even given the challenges that people of color and women continue to face, the economic buying power of these audiences is huge. Like, they're still spending a lot of money on things that these companies are selling every single day. So again, ignoring the opportunity to invest in them and nurture them and help them grow is one area. But if you don't invest in them, you are literally leaving billions of dollars, even trillions of dollars in some cases, on the table. So it's just not a smart move to ignore diversity and inclusion in your marketing, and really proactively create effective, authentic, compelling, engaging, multicultural marketing campaigns, because you want these audiences to buy from you, because there's a lot of money to be tapped into there.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about that. A couple of folks really resonating with your story about 4 generations of entrepreneurs. That's very unique, by the way. I think a lot of what we see out there are first generation entrepreneurs who actually have to sort of break free from the working mentality, that sort of employee mentality, to create their businesses. And so that's pretty spectacular and unique that you have sort of 4 generations of entrepreneurial mindset in your family. I think that's just a really special thing. Let's talk about that multicultural marketing, because I feel like there's a spectrum here, right? We have some brands that do it really well. We have some brands that try to check a box and it's really a bit hollow. So I kind of want to talk about those guys. And then we have the brands that I can't believe it's the year 2020 and they're finally waking up to the flat out racist branding that their companies have, and the racist tropes and things that they have stuck to for 100+ years now. And we're kind of finally, I feel like, hopefully seeing a forever, like putting that in the past and moving on from that. But there are certainly brands, you guys, that have tried to do multicultural marketing. What are some of just the, like, you guys kind of just have a V8 moment when you see what they're doing and trying but missing the mark? What are they doing that you're just sort of like, no?
I think just overall what comes to mind is a lot of times I'll see imagery or just word choice and instantly think, no diverse group of people looked at this before you push this out. Like, who let you do this? And it's so annoying, because if you had any type of diversity from, and diversity is not about ethnicity. It's not about gender. It's like, certainly I don't speak for all Black people. I don't speak for all women. So diversity is diversity. It's taking into account different perspectives and ideas and experiences, et cetera. So when you don't have a group of diverse people who look at your content and really give you their honest opinion, and you listen to them, that group or that body of individuals has decision-making authority to say, absolutely not. We are not putting that out because this is why, and you're going to alienate, or at the very least offend, this group of people. Then you come across as tone deaf. You come across as self-serving. You come across as, in some cases, racist. And no brand wants to be labeled with any of those things. So there's been so many examples that we've seen. I mean, that are public, Pepsi and Dolce & Gabbana. And there was that whole, like, see Detroit like we do. And then, it did not reflect the fact that the population of Detroit is 80% Black. It was all white people on the imagery. So there's just been so many examples that we've seen. And, it's because no diversity was in the room when those decisions were being made. And even if they were in the room, those individuals did not have the authority or the credibility for people to listen to them and say, you know what, we do need to dial this back. Let's revisit this and make sure that that we're putting out a true reflection of what we're trying to say.
Yeah, Angelique, we just published a blog post recently entitled 5 Big Brands That Got Multicultural Marketing Wrong, which it highlights some of those companies that Sydney mentioned. But the problem is, it's okay, on one end you're offensive, but man, think of the market share you're losing when you get it wrong. And that's the big problem. It's like, man, when you are successful with your audience and you give them what they need, you solve problems for them, and you help them to accomplish goals in your marketing messaging so that they'll come and purchase your products and services, everybody wins. And so that's why it's just our goal to our calling to help companies with their messaging, because folks are just not hitting the mark. And when they do, they win and the customers win.
Well, there's a huge opportunity cost there. And that brands miss out on. Not only, do you potentially alienate customers you have, but you also are missing out on the opportunity to generate additional revenue. And people are voting with their dollars. I mean, I have seen countless campaigns on Twitter and online, like boycott this brand, like I'm never buying from this company again. And people are serious about that. They're really spending their money with brands that align with their values and that take an interest in them. And so now more than ever before, making those missteps can be so costly for, years, that it may take you to recover that brand equity or that trust with your audience, because people will not spend their money with you if they feel like you are, self-serving and don't actually care about what matters to them.
Absolutely. And there's another angle to this, though, I want to talk about too, which is that there are also the companies out there that they're not necessarily making any missteps. They're being inclusive. They're putting out, content that is representative of their target market, but they're also not putting out anything that really relates, that is really relevant to that business, that woman-owned business, that minority-owned business, that small business owner. It's almost as though it's really just it's just a container to deliver marketing messages, kind of wrapped in a headline, pretending to be content marketing. And really, it's all about the company and their interest versus really what would be of service to their target audience, really understanding what they need and coming at it from that perspective versus from their own marketing department's perspective. Talk a little bit about that, because I know that's costing brands a lot of money when they don't quite get it.
Yeah, that makes me think of one project we did for a client who I will not call them out by name, but we helped them develop a strategy for a significant program where they were rolling out content across the country in a variety of formats. And when we first did our discovery with them, before, of course, that's the first step before we dive into a strategy, we went through a lot of their documents and materials, and every single thing they sent us was about their product. Every single thing they sent us was about their brand. And they had even their buyer personas were about their product. And there was nothing in anything they gave us that had anything to do with the customer. And so it's a huge problem especially in the tech industry, but among enterprise brands in general, that they get so focused on what they want to say and what they want to sell and what their products are, that they forget all about who it is they're actually talking to. And so one of the first things we did with them was really peel all of that back and show them, you guys, this is all about you. There's nothing in here, because we're your target audience. There is nothing in anything you've just given me that has anything to do with me or what matters to me or what goals I'm trying to achieve. So we redesigned all of their buyer personas to insist that they focused on the customers and who they are and what matters to them. And then actually train them on, this is how you understand and keep in mind what this audience wants and how you develop content for them. We changed all of the titles of their sessions. We just reconfigured the whole program and gave it back to them so that it was actually customer centric. And so making sure that that you are not making that mistake as a brand of leading with what matters to you. It's a critical misstep. It's very easy to do. And if you don't have an external objective perspective, that's exactly what's going to happen. You're never going to be able to see your brand as objectively as someone on the outside. And thus you're going to be pushing out all of this content that you think is for the audience, but really it's just to talk about how great you are.
Angelique, do we have time for another example?
Bubble. Yeah, we do, because I think this bubble and this idea of when you're a small business, the value that you're bringing into these companies is so huge, because they're stuck in their bubble. They're working, 60, 70 hours a week in their bubble, and they don't really understand what's happening out there. I would love another example.
Your last question was great, because you talked about messaging that it doesn't really hit the mark. Another thing that companies that bring us in are missing the mark on is having no messaging. So we work with another company that was wondering why isn't the small business audience, why aren't they adopting our product, right? Again, as Sydney mentioned, all about the product. Well, they weren't there was no messaging involved. So they weren't even educating the market and saying, hey, we have something great for you. This is how to help you solve problems. This is how to help you accomplish goals. They weren't doing any of that. So when they brought us in, we actually created a small business panel for them, and their team was able to ask the small business panel questions, and light bulbs were going off. Bing, 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 bing. I mean, things that they would never have thought of, because as Sydney mentioned earlier, they've never had a small business before. And so there was no messaging. They realized they needed messaging, and to speak to the audience, to really explain how they can help them and serve them in a way so that there's an interchange. You know, we give you great value, you give us great value by adopting our product.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think one of the things that you two guys have done so incredibly well with your boutique firm is also bring context and insight and sort of actionable steps to also what you're hearing. Because the other side of it could be, you could be a marketing department that just goes out and starts asking small business owners questions. And there's this great expression, buyers are liars, right? And so not necessarily by design, it's just that people will often say one thing, but their real behavior is something different. People are very, lack a lot of self-awareness. You know, we were having a conversation on our team the other day about someone, I'll make it up. So this person, you know, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here, but essentially we were on the phone with someone who was thinking about maybe working with us, not working with us. And their whole thing was being an expert in how to make decisions. Like their whole thing was like, how do you make decisions? And yet they couldn't make a decision for like 90 days. Like, you know, like it was, you know, and so like we were laughing on the team. We're like, you can't make this stuff up, you know? So, you know, the problem I think for some of these companies too, is that you could go ask questions of people as to kind of, you know, what are they doing as a small business owner? What's their behavior? But most people lack self-awareness, complete self-awareness. They don't even see the irony or the humor in some of their own behavior. And so one of the things that I know you guys do is say to them, look, we're going to find out what's going on, but we're also going to tell you what this really means. And we're going to differentiate between what, you know, small businesses might say they're doing versus what we know they actually are doing when we observe them sort of in their environment and what's going on. So I know you're bringing that. What are some of the other things that these brands should be doing when it comes to making sure multicultural marketing is not just checking a box, or that content marketing isn't just checking a box, and that it's actually moving the needle on engagement, loyalty, lifetime customer value, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, one of the things that's really irking me about the current situation is that a lot of brands are writing big checks to nonprofit organizations and saying, you know, we support and we're investing money, et cetera. And that's great. No, you know, I'm happy you're investing money, whatever. But that's not going to have a meaningful, lasting impact. If you want to have meaningful, lasting, tangible impact, you need to invest in your own program, because for so many reasons. Number one, it makes you accountable. You can write a check to XYZ organization. You have no idea what they're going to do with that money. You're not going to hold them accountable. And 2 years from now, they are not going to be able to tell you what they spent that money on and what kind of actual tangible results it created in any given community. If you invest in your own program, you now have some accountability, because you can and should track the impact of that program to see what actually happens over the course of time. When you create your own program, you have to get your team involved, which means you have to start shifting mindset and behavior and perspective in your team. And you actually have an opportunity to get to know your customers in an intimate way. So I'll give an example, a short example of a company I thought did this really well. About a year or so ago, we were invited to an event by Stripe, who is the credit card processing company. And they do a global event every year. They bring all their employees from around the world together. And then they also bring in, at the same time, a panel of customers. So we got invited to this event. We had a host who guided us around. They had great food and yada, yada. But what was so nice about that is we went around meeting different people from different teams in different parts of the company. And they just sat down with us and didn't talk to us about our credit card processing. They talked to us about our business, why we started our business, where we get stuck, what our goals were, and nothing to do specifically with their business, but they actually tried to get to know us. And so when you invest in creating your own programs instead of checking the box and writing a check to XYZ because we're down for the cause, that's not going to create any meaningful impact. And I'm super irritated that all of that money is not actually going to be of service to the audiences that actually need it. So we're really encouraging our clients, if you want to donate some money, that's fine, but you need to, more importantly, be creating your own sustainable programs. And you're not going to get it right all the time. You're going to make some mistakes and it may be a little bumpy at first, but doing that had so much value systemically, not just internally, but externally. It's just a really, really great way to be of service, to help your audience meet their goals and to meet the goals that you have internally. And it provides real accountability, which is so important right now, because the lip service, like, we're done with the lip service. I'm tired of seeing brands talk about what they care about or what their mission is, and they're not putting their money where their mouth is. But the people who are creating their own programming, those are the people that we're watching.
Well, and I think to that point, you guys, the people who are doing that, it's easy. I mean, when you're a big brand, frankly, it's pretty easy to write a check, right? I mean, that's a pretty easy thing. You go over to the CFO, you write a check and it's done, but it doesn't actually change your thinking. It doesn't change your culture. It doesn't change your thinking. It doesn't illuminate new areas of innovation where you can be of support. What I love about that story from Stripe is it's really what we're saying even all of these companies should be doing, which is understanding, taking the time to care enough. If you want the dollars from women-owned business owners, if you want the dollars from minority-owned business owners, then you should care enough to really get in a room with these people, maybe a virtual room these days, but get into a room with these folks and really listen and understand them at a new level. You guys have actually worked with some pretty big brands to actually put on events that allow them to create those moments and those experiences. I think a lot of people listening would just think, well, first of all, you're not an event. I mean, it's not like you guys own an event company here, right? Like, you're not an event planning company, but that isn't the point. The point is actually about the engagement and the value of that event. I have a feeling there are a lot of people in our community who would just think, well, these companies could just do these events on their own. But you're actually bringing something pretty unique to these events based on your perspective and the bridge between the two sides. Talk a little bit about that, because I know that your clients, in looking back, have realized, well, yeah, technically we could have rented a space. Technically, we can put some catering in there and invite people, but that's not the point of the event. The point of the event is the context that's being gained out of that exchange.
Yeah, for sure. And we've actually, and what I'm sharing with you about my pet peeve about just the throwing the money and not creating your own programming is in part because we've created programs for dozens of companies. We've created these programs, managed these programs, and really brought them to life and made them sustainable. And so we know what that lasting impact is, because we've been right in the center of doing that for some of the biggest brands in the world. Fortunately, I actually have a great deal of experience in event planning. We are not an event planning company, but I've been planning events for over 20 years. It's something I actually genuinely am good at and love to do. So it does come in handy when we're doing it. But the reason why it's so effective when we do it is because we're almost like an interpreter. Like, I can think of an example last year of we produced this event for Small Business Week San Francisco, and we had Instagram, Yelp, and LinkedIn participate. And so we had representatives from all three brands attend, and then we had about 75 business owners in the room with us, and gave them an opportunity to learn directly from the brands. And we also had 21,000 plus small businesses participate virtually. And so, because we're in the middle and the small businesses trust us because they know that we're small businesses like them, they're much more interested and willing to come to the event because they know it's being led by someone who understands what their daily struggle is. We also understand, because of the work we do, what our enterprise clients need and where they're stuck, and we speak their language. And so we're able to be that bridge between both and create these really safe, authentic spaces where they can learn from each other. So in that example, the small businesses loved being able to hear a discussion that I moderated, digging into, like, uncovering myths, dispelling common like missteps, etc., with all of those platforms and their tools, and really leading the discussion towards these are the tangible insights you need to get better results on all three platforms. The brands loved being able to be a fly on the wall and actually talk to small business owners and listen to them and engage with them and take that insight that they gained back to their teams. And we did debriefs with them after and really helped each brand to figure out how to leverage what they've learned in their internal strategy. So yes, of course you could hire an event planner and, that's fine. Or you could plan the event yourself, but having us in the middle, it creates, a deep level of authenticity there, because business owners want to learn from other small business owners. They actually don't always trust corporate people because they get paychecks and you don't know what my life is like. So to have us there as the bridge, it provides a really safe environment for both people to get what they want.
And to go back in and then guide the corporations on what to do with that insight. Because, I mean, you and I could talk for hours about some of the things, the ideas that big brands came to you and said, we think we should do this. And you're like, no, no, just no. And so, also helping them with that. And so I think it's about being that bridge, and then it's about taking those insights and actually knowing what to do with it, actually turning it into engagement opportunities, turning it into value add opportunities, even helping some of the brands that you've worked with better develop their products and what they're offering to small business owners that's really going to resonate with them. So I want to change gears here just a little bit, because we have a lot of people in our community who, you guys talked at the very beginning, Will, you said, look, they're not this sort of big, scary monster. We definitely have a lot of folks that come through our community, pass by us, or in our community, et cetera, that would look at working with a Facebook or an Instagram or a LinkedIn or some of those other big brands that you guys worked with. And that would feel really intimidating as a small business. You would think maybe you couldn't have a dent in these companies, but we know, having seen the work you guys are doing, I know the kinds of dents that you're putting in Silicon Valley and some of these really big, massive global tech companies. What are some of the pieces of advice that you have for folks who feel like if they're a 1 and 2 person business, or a 3 or 4 person business, or just a 1 person business, that they're thinking, well, how could I possibly bring something of value to a Facebook? How could I possibly bring something of value to, a Fortune 100 consumer brand, or a Fortune, 50 tech company? How could I do that? What would be some of the pieces of advice that you have for them?
Oh gosh,
I'll
many.
go first. So That's a great question, Angelique. And Facebook back in 2018, they did like a 25 city tour of Facebook community booths. And I was able to go on like 18 of those trips, working with the supplier diversity team. And Facebook specifically was saying, look, these are the steps to take to come and work with us. We buy everything. So a quick answer to your question is listen to what the brands are saying, because a lot of them want to work with small businesses. They want to diversify their supply chain and help communities in this way. And so listening and taking action on the things that brands are saying is really important. So actually working with Facebook in that capacity, it was great to go to all these cities and work with this brand and see how they are actually making a call to action to small business owners, saying, we want your products and here's how to work with us.
And what a great experience too, because the more you see behind the scenes in these companies, the more you see that they are really just exactly the same as all the small businesses out there, in terms of they don't have all the answers. I mean, I bet you saw, I'm not going to put you on the spot, I don't want to get you in trouble with Facebook, but I bet you saw at times some scrambling behind the scenes, because that's the reality of business. Things get done. When I was in corporate and we would, host big events in various places, we would be backstage sometimes with a blow dryer trying to get things to dry at the last minute, and these are big brands that I'm working. We were a very organized team. We weren't, but shit happens and things are done last minute. Sometimes you're always biting off more than you can chew. You never have enough budget. You never have enough people. No plan survives contact with the enemy. And so like any time that a small business owner is having an event, for those of you guys in our audience who've done an event, you can bet your bottom dollar that it was no different when Will was out there with those 18 Facebook events, just with some of the behind the scenes and the last minute of figuring things out, because that's how it is.
I would add to that. There's so much we could say about that.
So much.
Like the time I flew into a city and I wasn't on the docket to speak.
You flew into a city, they're paying you to come in, and you're not on the agenda. Like, that's the kind of shit that happens. You got and I think that people think these big companies have it all figured out. They do not have it all figured out. They're really just a bunch of people like us. Like, if you're listening to this, people just like you and me and Will and Sydney are working inside these companies, and there's just a lot of stuff that has to be coordinated, and it's not perfect. It's messy.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. Just don't make assumptions about the brand based on your own insecurities or, fears, because that's just projecting, and 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be true. So it's so true.
And don't make the assumption that they don't need you. They need your help and they want your help. Just get in there and start talking to people and developing a relationship. Sorry, Sydney. Okay.
No, that was the perfect segue. That's exactly what I was going to say, is look for opportunities to have conversations. I see so often in this space that small business owners feel like they're always pitching, like they're always trying to pitch and convince and sell. And we don't do that at all. I mean, we have our space where we've had to do pitches, etc., but that's not our MO. We genuinely enjoy meeting people. We genuinely like having conversations with people. And when you have a mindset that you want to get to know this person and you want to build a relationship with them, and you're very genuine about that, and you just want to get to know them and listen to them, it really shifts the dynamic, because they're used to being pitched to. And so when you actually just show up like, hey, I'm Sydney, like, it's nice to meet you, tell me about you, and we just talk, it relaxes them. And if you stay quiet, if you shut up and listen, they will tell you exactly what it is they want to buy from you. Just before this call, Angelique, I just was on the phone with a gentleman from a company who we met a year ago who wasn't ready to listen to us. How times have changed. And so now they want to talk to us. And so I asked him one question. He talked for 10 minutes and he rattled down, we need help with this. And, we're really struggling with that. He just rattled it down. And then he asked me a question and I shared some more things, but I took notes as he was talking.
Oh, I
know exactly what to go back and offer him. So we're going to talk again next week. And all I'm going to tell him is explain to him how we can do exactly what it is he asked us to do. I didn't pitch him on anything. I just was sharing with him details about my background and our background and what we do. So that is a huge piece of advice, is just to relax and be comfortable with who you are and really own your expertise and just have a genuine interest in people and having a conversation. It's so much easier than pitching, and they'll tell you exactly what it is you need to know.
It's so true. Well, it's so, my philosophy. So Will and Sydney and I have worked together for a really long, it feels like forever. I mean, I think you were at my first Inside Edge back in 2013, Sydney.
Yeah,
right?
we met in 2006 or 2007, Angelique.
Oh my God.
When we both were trying to figure out what the heck we were doing.
Yeah, way back. But to that point, we've basically have been doing what we do here since 2000. I started my business in 2006. Really started helping people in 2008 sell to corporate clients. The first 2 years was really predominantly focused just on corporate. But it's been over a decade. It's been 10 to 12 years, 10 years officially as the corporate agent, 12 years in total doing this work. You've been doing this work for a really long time. When I look at sort of the secret to your success, there are some themes there. You guys have invested in your business continuously. You have stuck with what you know. You've continued to stay the course. You've refined. I remember days and strategy days where we've talked about, nailing scaling down or changing messaging. But you guys have really stayed the course in your expertise all of these years and have really established yourselves as the experts in your area. Something else you've done, kind of like a cool sort of secret that you guys have, is you, Sydney, are, well, one, you're a great presenter, but two, you have on quite a number of occasions co-presented at conferences with major brands. I mean, Will, you were on the road with Facebook speaking at 18, co-speaking with them at 18 of their events around supplier diversity. Sydney, you've presented with really two I can think of off the top of my head. I guess they're like Fortune 10, Fortune 20 companies up there that you've actually presented with. How has that helped you to lead your movement in terms of sharing a stage and co-presenting with major brands on the topic of content marketing and multicultural marketing for those coveted audiences?
Yeah, that's been a really awesome thing. And again, it goes back to the relationship. Most of our clients, we're connected to online personally. We know their spouse's name, we know their kids' names, we know their dogs' names. And so we really do have a relationship with these folks. And it's been nice to take opportunities to invite them to join us in our speaking and invite them to share the work that we've done together and just other successes and wins that they have had. One example that comes to mind is I spoke at Content Marketing World, which is the largest content marketing event in the world. Every year, 4,000 plus people descend on Cleveland, and we spend a whole week talking about content marketing nonstop. It's my favorite event of the year. And so in 2018, I invited one of our clients from Google and one of our clients from LinkedIn to come with me. And they both agreed immediately. They paid for themselves to come. They flew in and did the talk with me. And it just really showed up for us and for me, which was amazing that they invested back in us. But I was really excited to invite them. It wasn't me asking them for something. It wasn't me pitching them. I really wanted us to showcase the work that we've done together and just what they and their teams are trying to do as examples that other marketers can model. And so it's a really great way to deepen the relationship. Certainly not, you don't want to just go inviting people just because it's a strategy, but I genuinely wanted to highlight the great work that they're doing and share some behind the scenes and showcase what these relationships look like. And so we've done that with lots of brands. We've done it with Constant Contact. Last year we did it with Verizon. I spoke at an event and invited one of our clients from Verizon to come. I'm actually going to do it a couple of times this year. So any chance I get to bring a client along and we get to have a conversation and show behind the scenes and answer questions, I think it's really valuable for the audience to hear. It's certainly much more interesting. I do love speaking and I get good feedback on my talks, but I think listening to me have a conversation with someone else is more interesting than just listening to me talk. So it's just a really nice way to showcase the work that you do and to deepen that relationship with that person, because, prepping for those, it's a lot of extra effort that you have to go through to figure out who's going to say what and design the talk. And it's been really fun doing that with our clients over the years.
Well, as they said, the idea of if you can make your client look like the hero, if you can put your client in the spotlight and really, just let them have a spotlight too, because so often, they're working really hard inside the company. It's not the same as it is for a small business owner, in terms of when we invest our business dollars into something that's going to, give us more in the business and the awards we might win as a small business. That's very different than when you're an employee and you're working hard. And so often you don't get as much recognition. So to have that chance for recognition is so important. It certainly makes the clients feel good. It does give you a deeper relationship with the clients. It associates your brand with those brands. I mean, talk about, creating a thought leadership platform to give yourself even a bigger platform to lead your movement from when you're when you're doing that with the brands. I love that you pointed out that you're the one inviting them. Mm-hmm. And I think that is something that's so, it's probably the biggest golden nugget takeaway from today is that you can put that invitation out there. I have fallen off my own chair so many times that I've put an invite out to the CEO or the head of a certain company. And, I kind of did it like, I know they're going to say no, but all right, I'm just going to send the email anyway. And so all these years, and I still get those butterflies at times about making a certain invite. All they can do is say no. And I would say most of the time you get the yes and not the no, which is, I hope I never get tired of that. Like, I hope it never gets old. I hope I never assume the yes, because it is such an exciting thing when you make an invite like that. I think right now, with all the events being virtual, remote for the time being, now's a great time to make those invitations, because you don't even have to ask. So number one, you don't have to ask them to travel. And number two, everyone's gotten over their fear of, well, our company doesn't let us use Zoom, or, we can't, right? No, I'm serious. People, like, Zoom was banned on a lot of, because of IT security concerns. So like now everybody's kind of over it. You guys would not believe the amount of senior level leaders I've talked to on Zoom that are basically in their pajamas.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's so great. So now's a good time to make those invitations. Well, you guys
I would say one other thing too, I'll add to Angelique as a value add, is that I remember when the two women came from Google and LinkedIn, I was able to introduce them to other people at the conference. And that's something too that your clients don't always have a chance to do. I know our clients don't always have the budgets or the time to get out to industry conferences that frankly they should be at anyway, and make those connections. And we are very well connected to the Content Marketing Institute and very good friends with all of them. And so I was able to make some introductions there that helps my clients expand their network and maybe helps them meet people that, they develop relationships with as they move in their career. So you can add a lot of value to your relationship with your client by genuinely taking an interest in them and looking for opportunities to do that. That's really priceless to them, that they think, oh, wow, I met so-and-so. Yeah, I met them when Sydney invited me to speak at that event. That's super cool. And it doesn't cost me anything, but it creates value for them.
You're getting a phone call from me very shortly, because per our strategy call that we had yesterday, I just want you to know I had an Angelique moment just now. And so I'm trying my best to keep a poker face right now, but you're going to have a phone call from me. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So my head just exploded. There was like poof. I don't know if you guys could all see like the smoke coming out.
I see it.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. So we need to rewind to yesterday's strategy call. I need to call you guys about something, because you just gave me an idea, which I love when that happens. So I'll call you guys. This has been amazing. You do have so much great information on your website. You have that blog article, one of many brilliant pieces of blog articles. You guys talk about supplier diversity, so many amazing things. Where can people go to get more info from you?
Yeah, definitely connect with us online. We're very easy to find. All of my handles are my full name with no spaces, no hyphens. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. Our website is smartsimplemarketing.com. Will's handles are, I think your handles are all your name too. So we're super easy to find. We love meeting people. We love connecting. We love having conversations. And we would love to continue this conversation. So thank you so much for asking, Angelique, and for having us. This has been so fun. We can literally talk for hours.
Forever. We can talk about this forever. And people don't have a lot of questions today, but that's okay. I know everyone's kind of slipping into summer malaise right now. We're all kind of, I'm supposed to be on an island somewhere, trying not to be bitter about the fact that I'm supposed to be on an island in a few days, and I'll be instead on the island of my swimming pool in the backyard. But that's okay. That's okay.